everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Well folks, it's my 600th episode, and today, I've decided to blog something very, very special. And trust me when I say that it's a movie that I've been wanting to blog ever since the beginning of my series. Now, I'm sure most of you out there know about legendary animator Chuck Jones. The last time I talked about him was during my second season when I blogged Gay Paris. But aside from that classic cat movie, Chuck Jones was also responsible for animating the original Horton Hears a Who, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and several Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry cartoons. However, the film we'll be looking at today is a film that I'm not sure if many of you out there know about these days. But does it still hold up today? Well, let's take a look and find out. Released on November 7th, 1970, the movie is The Phantom Tollbooth. Now, on for the plot of the movie. A young bored boy named Milo, not long after getting home from school, receives a mysterious package which turns out to be a toll booth. When Milo steers his miniature car through the booth's gateway, he finds himself in a mysterious animated fantasy land known as the Kingdom of Wisdom. Accompanied by a watchdog named Talk, Milo has a series of adventures in many places, and he meets many eccentric characters while going on a quest to rescue the princesses of Sweet Rhyme and Pure Reason, who are being held captive in the castle in the air to restore order to the kingdom. So, my thoughts on the movie? Well, what can I say except what an amazing film it is. Plus, nowadays, it's an underrated classic. And to further explain why I love this movie, let's move on to Mustang notes. In 1963, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer contracted with Sib Tower 12 Productions to have Chuck Jones and his staff produce new Tom and Jerry cartoons. For his first project with MGM Animation / Visual Arts, Jones read the book The Dot and the Line, written by the late Norton Juster, which was adapted into an animated short, which won the Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film. In January 1966, MGM optioned to adapt The Phantom Tollbooth into a feature-length animated movie. Jones remarked, "It was a natural progression to another Juster work." Early into development, it was decided that the first few scenes of Milo would be filmed in live action before transitioning into animation. Now, I have a little confession to make. I first saw this movie during my elementary age while I was studying at Del Cerro Elementary School, which is nice and all. Only problem is, I didn't watch the movie in full at the time until years later when the internet and YouTube got big during my high school age. And after watching the full movie online, not only was the movie amazing, but it kind of felt reminiscent to stories like Alice in Wonderland and The Wizard of Oz, due to the fantasy elements and strange creatures that Milo meets on his journey. Plus, about 2 months ago, I bought the original Norton Juster book from Barnes & Nobles, and to me, not only is this an epic and interesting story, but I also noticed that since the world that Milo travels through is called the Kingdom of Wisdom, there are things that are very imaginary, yes, but there's also references to stuff that kids learn about in school, like words and numbers. Also, in my opinion, the way the movie begins and ends in live action kind of gives me flashbacks from later films like James and the Giant Peach, Don Bluth's Rockadoodle, and The Pagemaster. As for the animation, well, what can I say except it's classic Chuck Jones hand-drawn animation, so there's nothing to complain about. Plus, there are a few moments where the animation feels like a living painting. And I really like the many different places that Milo goes to, like Dictionopolis, Digitopolis, the Mountains of Ignorance, and of course, the castle in the air. Oh, right. That happens whenever someone mentions that name. Another thing that surprised me, even though it doesn't really apply to me, was its 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which, like the recent My Little Pony movie, is really impressive. Now, let's talk about some of the songs. First, we have Milo's song, which is sung during the opening credits while Milo is walking home from school. To me, while the song is very calming, it does make a nice song to open up the movie. Next is Don't Say There's Nothing to Do in the Doldrums, sung by the Lethargians, whom are all voiced by Thurl Ravenscroft. In my opinion, this song is kind of disturbing and a tad uncomfortable, especially during the part where Milo joins in and the Lethargians start to swarm and engulf his car as it melts. But at the same time, I realize that this song is actually a warning that the doldrums is actually a feeling that can lock you into inactivity. Next we come to the funniest and noisiest song in the entire movie. Noise, Noise, Beautiful Noise, sung by Dr. Cacophonous A. Discord, voiced by Cliff Norton, and the awful Din, voiced by Candy Candido. To me, because it makes such a huge ruckus, this song always makes me laugh. Plus, it kind of brings back a funny memory from Chuck Jones' How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Gosh. Finally, we have the finale song, Rhyme and Reason Reign. To me, this song is really beautiful and glorious, especially when we see the Kingdom of Wisdom getting restored. And I absolutely love how the film's chorus sings it. I mean, sometimes it brings a tear to my eye every time I listen to it. And now, let's move on to the characters and their voice actors. Our main character, Milo, is played by a young Butch Patrick, whom you may remember from the 1960s Munsters show. Like in the book, Milo is characterized by his apathy. He is very bored and polite, and he has a closed mind, but during his adventures in the lands beyond, Milo later realizes all the greatness in the world, and his personality improves. However, Milo can be tricked pretty easily, like during the doldrums scene. Milo's first supporting character, Talk, the watchdog, is voiced by Larry Thor. Talk is a wise and protective, yet friendly biomechanical watchdog. In the movie, Talk saves Milo in the doldrums, and he accompanies him throughout his entire adventure, giving him answers to his questions and advice to fix his problems and to keep him out of trouble throughout the story. Talk also acts as the voice of reason. Also, I think Talk's Time song is the most memorable song in the entire movie, and I think the animation during the song is really fantastic. The next character who joins Milo on his quest is the Humbug, voiced by Les Tremayne. The Humbug is a character whom Milo and Talk meet at the marketplace in Dictionopolis. According to the book, he belonged to an old, noble family known as Insecticus Humbugium, which includes notable figures such as George Washington Humbug. To me, the Humbug is quite arrogant, believing that everybody likes him. He is also a bit foolish, easily believing the terrible Trivium's tasks are really important. He uses big words a lot, and he often complains, but he can also be kinda bossy. However, I didn't really like the part where he and the spelling bee got into a bit of a fight and ended up destroying the marketplace, which got Milo and Talk arrested by Officer Shortshrift. Next we come to King Azaz and the Math Magician, both voiced by Hans Conried, whom voiced the Grinch in Halloween is Grinch Night, the Magic Mirror in A Disney Halloween. Also, he was in The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, and he voiced Captain Hook in Disney's Peter Pan. King Azaz is the ruler of Dictionopolis, and the Math Magician is the ruler of Digitopolis. In my eyes, these two are kind of stubborn due to each king thinking that words or numbers are more important than the other. Plus, they kind of remind me of the Miser brothers due to them being disagreeable towards each other. However, I like when King Azaz gives Milo a bag of useful words, and the math magician gives Milo a magic pencil. Also, I like their musical numbers due to each one explaining how important numbers and words can be. Finally, we come to the princesses of Sweet Rhyme and Pure Reason, voiced by June Foray and Patty Gilbert. In my opinion, these two are very important and wise characters. According to Faintly Macabre, the not-so-wicked witch, the princesses were banished to the castle in the air when they couldn't solve King Azaz and the math magician's argument over what was more important. Since the princesses' absence, nobody could use logic, reality became invisible, and the Soundkeeper did not allow any pleasant sounds. However, after Milo frees them from their prison, they magically restore order back to the kingdom. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, The Phantom Tollbooth is an excellent animated movie. The animation by Chuck Jones is classical. The story does stay true to Norton Juster's book, despite the fact that he didn't really like the movie. Plus, the main character Milo is a very relatable kid while going on his journey through the Kingdom of Wisdom. The supporting characters like Talk and the Humbug are very memorable, lovable, and sometimes funny. The songs are very timeless, educational, catchy, and hilarious, even though the Doldrums song was very disturbing. Plus, most of the movie feels like a fantasy mixed with stuff that you'd learn in school, which is pretty clever in my eyes. So, for those who have not seen this movie yet, be sure to check it out, and read the original book while you're at it, especially if you're into underrated animated movies, or if you're Chuck Jones fans. As for my rating, I'll give The Phantom Tollbooth the highest rating of 100%. Well, that's all for now. Here's to 600 episodes, and hopefully another 100 to come. Mustang Power!